Welcome to the Pat White Show.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome into this edition of Casino Talk. Yes, it seems like talk about the casino, boy, it's a never-ending situation, and there's more that's going on right now involving a potential casino for Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, we all remember that many months back, there was a plan for a casino in New Haven, Indiana. You remember that? Rising Sun wanted to move their casino from the southern part of the state to New Haven, and we're going to spend $500 million. Put in the casino, city was going to get a lot of money. Everybody was going to get a boatload of money, but nobody in Allen County put a bill in or filed anything that says, hey, we're supporting this. Not one politician. Finally, it took a politician from Huntington to put a bill on the floor in the House to say, hey, I'm interested in a casino for Allen County. Well, the bill went down to Indy, to the hearing down there, and the committee that heard it, the head of the committee said, nah, we're not going to listen to this bill. We're going to see about appointing some special commission, and they'll decide where to put a casino for Rising Sun for when they move. All right, that was in the early part of Casino Talk. Well, since that time, yes, they did appoint a special commission, a third party, if you will, whose job it was to search out venues in the state for this new casino, moving the Rising Sun to a different city. Came up with 4 locations. One was Auburn, Indiana. Another one was the east side of the state of Indiana. And one was up near Lafayette. And the fourth was downtown Indianapolis. Well, you can imagine the thrills that were going on through people's spines throughout the state, thinking, hey, we can get a casino. Well, people up in Auburn said, well, they got a problem up there because the casino up in South Bend, the Indian casino's got a special, a territory, exclusive territory. Can't build or do anything inside that area. Auburn is right next to that area. Could be a problem. And eastern Indiana, well, that wasn't going to work. Lafayette had the same problem. But boy, the perfect location, as it turned out, was Indianapolis. Woohoo! And there's a Circle Center Mall downtown Indianapolis that is closing down. Used to be a great mall, wonderful mall, huge mall. Had interconnecting walkways over the city, over the street, so you can get the hotels to the mall. Huge parking area. It was a perfect location for a mall, but unfortunately it didn't work. And the mall owners threw all the people out effective the end of this month. The mall will be empty. They're saying, we're going to spend $500 million to make the mall something really cool again. We're going to create something really new. $500 million, same amount of money that said that you're going to do that casino. So, well, now the word was, hey, they're going to build that probably down in Indianapolis. Rising Sun going to Indy. Because Indy has professional basketball, women's professional basketball. They've got NFL football. They've got NCAA things. They've got AAA baseball. They've got everything down there. And a downtown casino would be the smartest thing to put down downtown Indy. Okay, fine. Well, then suddenly, the mayor of Fort Wayne, Indiana, Sharon Tucker, goes, no. I want a casino. And guess what? She marches down to Indianapolis, that same committee that turned down the one for New Haven. She's sitting there going, we need it. Well, the Senate Bill 1 is taking away our property taxes, so we got to have money, so we need a casino. And lo and behold, members of the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Fort Wayne as they call them, came down there and said, yeah, we agree. Suddenly, people here in the city, the mayor, Chamber said, yeah, we want a casino. And then another bill was introduced. You see, S70 was for the Rising Sun to move, but that new bill that Sharon Tucker was proposing, House Bill 1038, I believe it is, said, we want a brand new licensed casino. We want to increase the number of casinos from Indiana from I believe it is, to like 14. So we want to have a brand new casino to come to Fort Wayne. Yeah, you can build the Indy one, that's perfectly fine, but we need a casino because we need money. And she was down there, and the committee goes, hey, that's a good idea. Let's pass that. So now Well, we're looking at potential casino. But here's the question I want to ask. When the New Haven was going on, when New Haven was talking about getting a casino, there was a cry, a hue from many people in Allen County saying, we demand a vote. We demand a referendum whether we should have gambling in Allen County. A referendum must be held. And that was the word. Now, it never happened because obviously the casino never happened. But now with the mayor, she doesn't want a referendum. No, didn't want a referendum. So here's my call. Now, we've got some excellent radio stations in this town, especially probably one of the best news talk stations, probably in the state, and believe it or not, probably in America. And their host, she does a fabulous job of interviewing politicians because she has every politician you could think on her program. Wonderful. I believe that she should ask every one of these politicians, namely the mayor, the commissioners, one simple question. Are you going to allow a referendum to turn what people want? Will the public be able to vote on whether they want a casino? Yes or no, congressman? Yes or no, mayor? Yes or no, commissioner? Ask each one of them, will they allow a referendum? That's all I think. If they're going to say it's good for the goose in New Haven, is it good for the gander in Fort Wayne? Just something I'm asking about. And then finally, let's go into this. Where can they locate a casino? Because it has to be in the city of Fort Wayne. And they're putting it in because they say, well, you know, that Miami tribe out of Oklahoma, they bought some land over there in the far west, the west section of Allen County. It's out there on Fritz Road. Well, there's no utilities, and there probably never will be. There's you can't get much utilities out there. It's out in the middle of nowhere. All they're going to build a casino. That's the false flag they're raising, in my opinion. That's my opinion. It's a false flag. Well, we got to do it because they'll build a casino, and they'll keep all the money because the Indian casinos don't give money to the state, just so you know. Those are the rules. We want a state casino, so we get money. That's all this is about, getting money. So they've got to locate a casino in the city of Fort Wayne. Where? Where could you locate a casino in Fort Wayne, Indiana? Well, let's see, downtown? Remember that one city block they wanted to do, getting rid of the Taco Bell and the Euros place? Talking about putting an auditorium down there for the Mad Ants, back when the Mad Ants were still playing basketball here. Well, that's one city block. Yeah, it'd be nice for a casino, but where are you going to park people? There's the problem. No parking. So, got to figure out some other place inside the city limits to put a casino. Now, casino, if you're going to ask someone to come in, a company, let's say Trump Company. I'm going to use Trump just as an example. The Trump people to come in and build a casino in Fort Wayne. Where's the people in that company going to say we want the casino located? If they're smart, they're going to say, well, we want it right next to an interstate. We want people to be able to see it when they're driving around. We want great access with roads to get to that casino. We want to have special amenities around that casino in that area, like grocery stores and restaurants and, hey, maybe even a hospital near there and lots of hotels in that area. That's where we want a casino. And boy, if you could get a casino located by two interstates, crossing interstates, woohoo! Put it right there. That would be perfect for a casino. Now, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just spitballing. But where in the city are you going to locate that? Oh, and the other thing is the biggest concern. This is the biggest concern. Where do you have sufficient utilities? Utilities. Above ground, underground. Casino's going to need a lot of power, so they got to have a big substation nearby, feed plenty of power to them. Where are big substations located in the city of Fort Wayne? Inside the city limits. Ask yourself that question. So just some of the questions I'm asking on a casino talk. Today's edition. And yes, the only thing I'm asking for the people in media to do is to the politicians they talk to, ask them flat out, are you going to allow a referendum for the people of Fort Wayne, the voters of Fort Wayne who will have to endure having a casino? Will you allow them to vote on whether they want it? Simple question. They get that done. Let's see what the people think. If the people want it, bring it on. If they don't, find another idea to raise money. Just saying. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Cable Talk, and have yourself a great day, and see you soon. Well, if you're one of the people who watches the news, you probably know about what's going on involving the Department of War, Pete Hegseth, the commander of that particular section, and the Democratic Congress. It all involves boats, drug boats. They call them go-fast boats that are traveling from Venezuela to various parts of the Caribbean to drop off a whole bunch of drugs, and they're doing it pretty effectively and have been doing it for years and years. Well, now this administration decided we're going to stop that. And they're trying to say, okay, Venezuela is a bad country headed by a bad president who's basically a drug lord himself. So they're cutting off drugs coming into the United States, fentanyl in particular, which is killing not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands of people in this country every year. Drugs are a problem and have been forever and ever. But cutting off the supply, well, that's a different animal. And that's exactly what they've been doing. Now, you have to understand something. The Congress is out there to, well, make waves. But what are the laws that Maritime operates under? You know, once you leave the 12-mile limit from some country, what are the international laws that control, well, what a boat does, what you can do involving a boat? So what do you say we chat about those laws and see if the Democrats and the parties are right or wrong in what's going on? All right, first off, the United Nations has a law. It's called the United Nations Convention of the Laws of the Sea. It's a pretty lengthy document, but it's signed by everybody in the UN. And it says, here's what we're going to do involving the high seas, anything outside the 12-mile limit. Everybody has signed on to this. In particular, there's articles number 92, 94, and 110. And I'm going to talk about those particular articles because here's what it says. Every boat that you see out there has what they call a flag. And you look at the end of the boat, you're going to see a flag. And, well, if you get on a cruise boat, and here's a Disney boat, just for example, here's a Disney boat that's flagged in another country, not the United States of America. You got on most cruise lines, you look at the flag on the back of the boat, it's not a U.S. flag. It's a flag of a different country. And why do they have those flags of convenience, they're called? Because that particular boat, once it's on the high seas, operates under the rules, regulations of the country where it's registered. A lot of boats are registered in Panama, hence you see the Panama flags, because the restrictions on the boats are, well, a lot less expensive to cruise companies. They can save a lot of money. Now, here in the United States, you don't see many boats, United States flag. It goes back to Prohibition, when they outlawed liquor on boats. So the boats said, okay, we'll register in Panama, or wherever country they did, so they can have liquor on their boats. That's a long time ago, but tradition still stands today. Well, anyway, let's talk about the articles from the UNCLOS. One says that any boat on the high seas that is not displaying the flag of the nation that they are aligned with, attracted to, whatever, if they are not flagged, they are considered to be pirates. Yeah, they're not flagged, under a flag, they're considered to be pirates. And any nation can stop, board, search, can do about anything, disable any craft on the ocean that doesn't follow the orders of that particular nation that's doing this. Now, one of the things they've been talking about is Pete Hegseth. He is guilty of war crimes. You cannot be guilty of a war crime if you do not have a war. Are we at war with Venezuela? Has the Congress declared a war against Venezuela? No. Hence, the term war crimes is clickbait. It is just nothing to get people to go, oh my God, he's a criminal. This is a game, folks. This is a political game being played. And frankly, there are laws the United States has that have to do with being on the high seas. And guess who signed them back when they were originated and put on the desk of the president? The Democrats signed them because they said it made good sense, especially involving drugs. Years ago, Chuck E. Schumer signed the big drug bill. Yep, he signed this, said, yep, got to keep drugs out of America. And the Democrats signed it, and Chuck Schumer did. So the laws exist in the high seas. And something else, according to the UN laws, you can utilize lethal force. Now, let's say you run into a boat that says, hey, stop, halt, we want to search you, whatever, and the boat takes off. This is what these go-fast boats do. They've got motors on them, cost $10,000 per motor. Very expensive motors. Make the boat go 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And they're not trying to go for 1,200 miles between Venezuela and Florida. It doesn't work that way, folks. You don't understand how the shipment concept works. Those boats are only going maybe 50, 60 miles to get to another island, another cay, or another bigger ship, a real ship, waiting for the cargo to arrive so they can take it off of the go-fast boats, put it on a cargo ship, and take it into, well, port, where nobody knows what they have. That's why those bundles are all wrapped up so neatly. That's what this is all about. The go-fast people, they're not going 1,200 miles. They're going less than 100 miles, but they got to get there quickly so nobody can touch them. And that's why they're going 60, 70 miles an hour, and they don't stop when you hail them. So what do? You can shoot at them. Sometimes the military tries to shoot the motors out of these vehicles or these crafts, so they got to slow down so they can board them. But understand this: when they board a craft, the people who were out there, they were nothing but former fishermen who found out they could make more money running drugs. And the concept is called deliver or die. And the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever, had a reporter that went on with these guys and figured out what they were doing. They're just out there trying to earn money for their families because, well, can't make a whole lot of money fishing, boy, but you can make a whole lot of money running drugs. Well, when they get caught, they say, what country are you from? They say, Venezuela. They have to take them back to that home country for prosecution in that home country. Well, if it's a country is a drug country, what do you think the powers that be are going to say when they arrive back in Venezuela? Hey, dude, how are you? Welcome on back. How come you didn't do the delivery? Could be good, could be bad. But legally, under the UN laws that were signed by everybody in the UN, including the United States of America, lethal force is 100% acceptable. What they're doing is shooting these boats out of the water is legitimate and acceptable under United Nations law. Don't let any politician tell you anything different. And when they start screaming war crimes, there is no war crime because there's no war. Tell us what war we're fighting. Just so you understand what's going on here, folks, that's the important part. There is law, it is legal, and if they're not running under a flag, they are a pirate. And as a pirate, they can be intercepted, searched, and scuttled because they're a pirate. And that's what the law says from the United Nations Convention called the United Nations Convention of Laws of the Sea. Plainest English, plain language right there. Take a look at it for yourself. It is illegal to take these boats down because they are not flagged. They are considered pirates. I hope that helps you understand exactly what's going on so you don't get bamboozled or literally conned by somebody or someone organization trying to tell you something that's not true, because it's all about politics and it's all about power and who has it and who wants it. Hopefully now you understand, because now you know. Well, the end of the college football season is at hand. It's done, it's finished, and the organization that selects the people to play in the big college football 12-team playoff, well, they've made their decision, right? Well, it turns out after all the conference games, all the things were finished, people's seasons are done. Well, Indiana's the number one team and Ohio State's number two because Indiana beat Ohio State. Okay, fine. Here's the block. Came down the 12 teams that are going to be in the playoffs. And you're saying, well, that's pretty doggone cool. 12 teams in there. Well, a lot of people say, wait a minute, my team's not in there. Now, you could be saying that whether you're Well, Miami? Are you going to say that? Oh, not necessarily. If you're Notre Dame, you're going to say, wait a minute. Notre Dame's not in. They had a great schedule. Yeah, they had 2 losses. One of those losses was their opening season loss to Miami. And yes, they got better. They improved. But they didn't get in. Now, why? Well, you got head-to-head losses. And what the board says that picks this, they looked at head-to-head. Miami versus Notre Dame. Miami beat Notre Dame. Okay? So Notre Dame's out. Miami's in. And then you're wondering about, well, wait a minute. How come that the Alabama team was in? Well, here's something you need to understand. The college playoff system, the college playoff games that all you see in there, the original games, the starting games, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, those are all on ESPN. ESPN owns the rights to all of those games. And whether you like it or not, ESPN is looking for the most eyeballs they can put on there, plus what they have to pay the individual teams in the events. Now, if you're paying a team $4 million because they are in the playoff system, if they're in a conference, say 10, 12 teams, well, they got to spend, everybody gets their cut of that $4 million, whatever it is. And the smaller your conference, well, the bigger cut you get. And the bigger cut, obviously, the smaller amount you get. Notre Dame, by not being in a conference, keeps all the money. And besides that, they do a little stuff with the ACC and on the side, not necessarily football, but other sports, they pick up a little coin there too. So Notre Dame doesn't share their money with anybody. Is that the reason they got picked or didn't get picked? No, I can't tell you. But ultimately, the team came out and said, hey, you know what? We ain't going to a bowl game. But Notre Dame isn't the only one not to go to a bowl game. There were actually some other teams aside from Notre Dame that literally had more than 6 wins. Iowa State, I believe, and I think Kansas State might have been the other one. I could be wrong. But any team with 6 wins usually goes to a bowl game, correct? Over the years, you get 6 wins, you're in a bowl game. There used to be 100 bowl games in this country. Now, yes, we had the bigger bowl games, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl. Even the out in Arizona, the particular Phoenix Bowl that they have out there, all these different bowls. Well, people wanted to go to those bigger bowls. You could go to one. You could go to a Cotton Bowl. You could go to an Orange Bowl. Those were the big bowls that you wanted to be in. And the problem is, the new playoff system, that's where they're playing their games. So if you don't make it into the college football playoffs, you go to a nothing bowl, to the Pop-Tart Bowl, whatever it is, because bowls, folks, are dying. All the good teams nowadays are saying, hey, I want to get into the college playoffs. And because of that, those college playoffs take place at all the big major bowls. That's where they work for. So if you don't make the college football playoffs, you get a nothing bowl. You get the Taco Bowl. You get the Pig Bowl. You get whatever bowl you can think of. That's not a major bowl and nobody really cares. So the teams are saying, wait a minute, I ain't playing in that. Why should I? Because in the era of NIL, the money that are being paid to these players, they don't want to get hurt. They want to make sure they keep getting money, so they're going to say, why play in an extra bowl game? It means nothing to them. They're not going to get anything from it. There's no big ring or anything that comes from it. And frankly, any school that's out there in a conference got to spread the money around. Notre Dame keeps all their money. But so schools are saying, you don't need to go to a bowl. It's not worth it. It's not worth the time, the effort. The players are saying, hey, for the money we're being paid, we're not going to do it. Well, here's a bigger thing you hadn't thought about. Turns out that the Big Ten has now proposed a new bowl system. And it ain't just 12 teams. They're looking at 24 teams. You heard me right. A 24 team. Take a look at this. Here it is. 24 teams in the college playoff, which would mean you have to start the season a week earlier. It's your play. You got a certain number of home games in the playoff for the schools in the early portion of the playoffs. And they're taking up all the various bowl spaces, and the entire season ends in January. Now, January 1st, they get the whole thing, get everything done, 24 teams playing for the national championship get that big ring. You know what that's going to do to the other bulls out there? Kill them. Bulls are going to be dying, folks. I'm sorry, that's where it's headed. Folks are the regular bulls that you and I know. Every bowl out there, even the bowl I'm accustomed to, the Sun Bowl I'm used to. I think that's going to be in peril as well. They're all in trouble because all the teams want to play in the big bowls, the Orange Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Rose Bowl. And that's what they all want to play. That's what they want to do, and that's part of the college football playoff system. And if they go to 24 teams, that's going to kill the bowl system as you know it. That's what they're working on, folks. So, yes, people are ragging on Notre Dame now because they don't want to play. Well, Iowa State doesn't want to play. I don't think Kansas State wants to play. And frankly, a whole bunch of other schools don't want to play either. Most of them are under 6 wins. Understand that. But keep in mind, not getting into the playoffs, right now it's 12 teams. It used to be 4 teams, remember? Now they want to take it to 24 teams. Change the entire parameter of football as we know it. That's what's coming. So if you wonder what's happening out there and why it's happening, well, it's all because of money. It's all because of the image and the TV networks and what have you who own these things. They're looking for the biggest amount of eyeballs they can get. The more coverage they get, the more teams and the more rights they own to everything, they control it. Well, there's where the money comes from, and that's what they're in for, is looking for money. And right now, giving each team in the playoff $4 million, you're in a conference, you're sharing the money. It's not that big a deal. But imagine what it would be like with 24 teams. Well, folks, that's what's coming. You may not like it, but you might, because maybe your team will get in. But it's going to drastically change the season. Oh, but the best thing might be it's going to change the transfer portal from the first part of January to the middle part of January, which means you can't make a transfer in the portal till the season is completely done. That may not be a bad plan. But NIL, football, ladies and gentlemen, in today's world is money. Students are paid money just like the pros. And if they don't want to play after their season is done in a bowl game, ain't going to change one thing for them because they ain't going to get one dime more than they got before. That's the way it is. And now you know why teams are saying, we don't make the playoffs, we don't want to play anymore, we're done. And I don't blame them. But with 24 teams down the road that the Big Ten is proposing, that changes the entire makeup of football and will probably completely destroy the remainder of the bowl games that exist in this country. Just so you know, and now you do know. Well, let me talk to you parents out there, especially you parents that are, well, old, like me. You baby boomer parents who have kids. Do you remember the fact when you bought your first house, how long ago it was if you were a baby boomer? I do mine. I was 31 years of age when my wife and I bought our first house. It cost us $55,000. Now, that was clear back in 1981, but today things have dramatically changed. According to a gentleman by the name of Ryan Serhart, apparently he's some sort of celebrity real estate broker on TV. I don't know the guy, don't really care. But he's saying, you know, things have gotten pretty bad. And it turns out if young people today are looking to get their first homes, according to the National Association of Realtors in a recent study they did, a 2025 profile, they call it, the average age for a person buying a house in today's economy, they're 40 years of age. Now you're asking yourself, 40 buying your first house? Yeah, granted, I was 31. Some people are younger than me, but I waited a little bit longer until I got married. Till my wife and I decided, okay, we got to buy a house. Well, that was then. That was back in the 80s. Things are not the 80s anymore. Things are not the 90s. Heck, things are not even 2020. Because back in the old days, 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could get a mortgage for like 3%. Yeah, 3%. Well, now you're seeing the mortgages a whole lot higher. I mean, they were 6, 7%. They're coming down a little bit now. They're somewhere in the range of, 6% or less. But the problem is people can't find houses. And why is that happening that people can't find houses? Well, some people, not all, and some people say one of the reasons is that we've had somewhere between 15 and 20 million people cross the border illegally into this country in the last few years. And they're taking up housing, rental housing. And a lot of people are selling their houses, and there's people out there trying to market housing as rental houses instead of, buying a house. People are saying, they can't afford a house because, 20% down, that takes a lot of money, and everybody's selling their houses for, high dollars. So if you're in that problem, just imagine what it's like. Now, if you live in the West Coast, like up in the San Jose, California area, San Francisco, the Silicon Valley, and on the left coast, Los Angeles, the houses are going to be extremely expensive. Normally, banks, when they look at financing a house, say, okay, you can have about 25% of your income, roughly a quarter of your income, can go to be on a house payment. So you figure over a year, 25% of what you make. So if you make, say, $50,000 a year, you got $12,500 a year that you can spend for a mortgage on a house. All right? That's for somebody making $50,000. About $12,500 ain't going to be buying much of a house, frankly, in today's market. Figure out what the mortgage would be with $1,250 for a 30-year mortgage. That's the problem we're running into. We're running into the fact that people simply cannot afford the down payment on a house, and then they can't afford the interest rate when they want to go buy a house because that 25% threshold is causing them a big problem. So what do? Well, you say we try to buy more homes, or the latest things they're coming up with are these little mini homes. You've heard about them. People specializing in building these small little tiny houses that are, less than 1,000 square feet. Many cases, a lot less than 1,000 square feet. And they say, people could buy those and move into those. A couple can move in. Well, that's fine. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But because the cost of everything has gone up so much because of the inflation that happened back in the previous administration when they dumped $2 trillion new dollars into the market. Market can't handle $2 more trillion in there because it makes your dollar, the one that you have, worth about 20% less. That's exactly what happened. So mortgage rates shot up, interest rates, they were high, obviously. And inflation, 9%, whatever it was, people couldn't afford things. So now here's where we are, folks. The CDC says that most women now aren't giving birth until they're 30 years of age. That's how society's going. People are not getting, they're getting married later, they're having their kids later, and frankly, they're finding out they can't afford a house until they're 40 years of age. It's a bad problem. And the mortgage rates are not like they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. So where are you going to go? It's a tough one. And right now, you got to understand something. Old baby boomers like me, we sell our homes. No, we don't want to. Why sell a home when you've got a 2 to 3% mortgage on it when you buy something else, a place that's for empty nesters, call them as you will? You're going to be paying a 6% mortgage on it. People don't want to do that. And then those empty nester houses could cost almost as much as the house that you're selling for a whole smaller house. I know, I've seen it and I've lived it. So there's the dilemma, folks, going on. How do we get ourselves down? Well, maybe one of the ways that if we reduce the population of folks who are here illegally and renting homes, maybe that'll change things. Possibly. Don't know if it will or not. Can they build more houses? Yes, everybody's trying. But there's only so much land in the world and only so much space that they can build houses on. And when they build them, apparently they're going to build them a lot smaller. And hopefully people will have the money to be able to put down on it. I don't think 20% down is going to change much. I don't think so. It might. But remember, 25% of your annual wage is what you can spend on a house as a rule. Now, there's differences left and right. I understand that. But if you use a 25% model to say, okay, That's what I can afford on a house, and that's what the bankers are going to give you. That tells you exactly how much you can do, because you divide that 25% by 12, that tells you your monthly payment, and you figure out what kind of mortgage can I get for that monthly payment. It helps you to figure out if you can get a house, but the trouble is, it's hard to find them, it's hard to pay for them, and ultimately, people don't really want to do some of the stuff that we had to do when we were younger. And that's just work hard and scrape and get by and make it happen. But that's today, and we were yesterday. Well, the college football season is officially over, and now we're going into the playoffs. But before the playoffs start, we have to find out who is the official winner of the Heisman Trophy. Yes, the premier trophy in collegiate football is the Heisman Trophy. Whoever wins it, more often than not, gets to be a number one draft pick for some certain team in the NFL when they're picked. But every year, well, we find out who's going to be the Heisman winner. They all congregate in New York City. It used to be you'd see 6, 7, 8 people sometimes. Well, now the committee has decided to narrow it down to 4 individuals. And now they want to use 4 because, well, they said it creates a lot more excitement, a lot more interest, and it saves them a lot of money having to bring in people from all around the country, most of whom, all of whom, except one, are going to, well, be losers. So they're only using 4. So who are the final 4 this year in 2025 to be selected on Saturday, December 13th? Yes, I'm sure you'll be in front of your TV to see who's going to be the Heisman because you may have an interest. Well, here's the current final 4, as they say, for this year's Heisman Trophy Award. Start off with Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. Incredible running back. Now, he may decide to go pro early because he's got another year of eligibility left, according to his father. And his father says, he may come back because he's got a chip on his shoulder because Notre Dame was not included in this year's national championship organization. It's a whole other story. But does Jeremiah want to come back and say, I want to get that national championship ring rather than the Heisman? Because if he comes back next year, he could win the Heisman depending on what's happened. How it works out next year, you never know. So you got Jeremiah Love in there. You also have Mendoza, Indiana University, all-around clean guy. You've seen him with his family, very, very well-spoken. He and his brother together, great family. His mom's got a debilitating disease, unfortunately, but he's a very Christian athlete. He's the right kind of guy, And he is the Indiana University quarterback. Take him to number 1, beating Ohio State last week. So is he the odds-on favorite for the Heisman? Maybe. But you got Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. Well, Vanderbilt's pretty much been the doorstop for the SEC over the years. They've been a cupcake. Everybody beats up on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt this year's pretty good, 10 wins. And Diego's pretty good quarterback, very good quarterback. He's in the Final 4 for Vanderbilt. Does he have a chance? Numbers are very good. And finally, Julian Sayin, Ohio State University, the Ohio State University, just to be proper. Well, he's out there and he's running also. So you have 3 quarterbacks and 1 running back all vying to win this year's Heisman Trophy Award. Like I said, it takes place in New York City, and all the guys sitting there in the front row waiting to be called, the entire hoopla that goes on behind it, meeting the families and everything else. See who's going to win the Heisman. But does not winning the Heisman make you bad? Not necessarily. There have been a lot of people who didn't win the Heisman who were very, very good. There's also been a lot of people who won the Heisman that, were bust, that weren't worth the powder to blow them there. So the Heisman's a great award. I understand that. A lot of players like to do the end zone dance, do the Heisman dance. Okay, I get all that. But now we got 4 people this year going for the Heisman. 1 from Notre Dame, 1 from IU, 1 from Vanderbilt. Really, that's a hard one to say sometimes. And 1 from the Ohio State University. One of these is going to be your Heisman Trophy winner. And could he possibly become the number 1 choice in the NFL draft when that happens next spring? Because the NFL wants to have football on TV the entire year if they can do it. Right now, they managed to get that probably 8 months worth of football. But right now, who's going to win the Heisman? It's a very interesting story. You may have your favorites. Saturday night, December 13th, you'll find out if your favorite player is the Heisman Trophy winner for 2025. And now, you know.